He was choosing a wedding cake for a woman he didn't love when he saw the face of the only woman he ever had. The bakery sat between a dry cleaner and a flower shop on a quiet street in Itaewon, the kind of block Daniel Kang's driver had to ask for directions to twice. He hadn't planned on coming himself. CEOs of companies his size didn't choose fondant flavors. But something about the listing had pulled him out of his building and into the back seat of his car without an explanation his security team could understand. The bell above the door chimed when he walked in. Warm sugar and butter hit him before his eyes adjusted, and that's when he saw her. She was reaching into a display case, sleeves pushed up, flour dusted along one forearm, humming under her breath. 5 years since she'd left Seoul without a word, and somehow she was standing 8 feet away like no time had passed at all. Amara. Her name left his mouth before he decided to say it. She turned, and the tray in her hands hit the counter with a clatter that made the whole shop go quiet. Then a small voice rang out from the back room. "Mommy, look! I drew the bakery!" A little girl, maybe 4, came barreling through the doorway holding a crayon drawing above her head. She had Amara's warm brown skin, but her eyes, dark, almond-shaped, unmistakably his, stopped Daniel cold. The girl froze when she noticed him, pressing herself against Amara's leg. "Nari, sweetheart, go play in the back for a minute, okay?" The girl obeyed, but not before glancing back at Daniel one more time. The door clicked shut. "How long?" he finally managed. "Were you going to let me not know?" "You need to leave. I have a daughter," his voice cracked. 5 years, Amara. I find out like this? Lower your voice. This is my business." Her hands were shaking as she set the tray down. "You don't get to tell me to be calm. You left me divorce papers and silence, and now I walk in to buy a cake for—" He couldn't finish it. Amara looked at him for a long moment, something hard settling behind her eyes. "Fine. Not here. Not in front of her." She scrawled an address on the back of a receipt and pushed it across the counter. "Back door. 6:30. Alone. My mother has nothing to do with—" "I didn't say your mother. I said alone. Or don't come at all." Daniel caught one more flash of yellow through the window. His daughter, completely unaware that the stranger in the shop had just become the center of her entire life. He turned and walked out, the bell chiming behind him, absurdly cheerful. His security chief opened the car door, confused. "Sir, the cake? Drive. Just drive." As the car pulled into traffic, he looked back. Amara stood in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself, the exact way she'd stood the night she left him. 4 years old, maybe 5, which meant she'd been pregnant the day his mother accused her of something she never did, which meant his mother had known. He had 6 hours to find out exactly how deep that lie went before he knocked on a steel door in an alley and asked the one woman he'd never stopped loving why she really disappeared. The ride back to his office felt longer than any flight he'd ever taken. Daniel sat with his phone, face down on his knee, ignoring the thread of messages from Seoyeon about cake tastings and seating charts, things that belonged to a life that had just cracked open in front of him. 4 years old. Maybe 5. The math kept repeating like a loop he couldn't close. His office took up the top floor of a building he'd spent 12 years building his name into. Seoul spread out below in grids of light, and for the first time, none of it looked like anything he'd actually chosen. His assistant knocked. "Sir, your mother is on line 1. This is her 4th call. Tell her I'll call back. She said it's urgent. Tell her anyway." The phone rang again minutes later. His mother, direct line. He let it ring 3 times before answering. "Where are you?" Hee-jin's voice was crisp, already several steps ahead of him. "You canceled the tasting. Seon's mother called me in a panic. I saw Amara today." Silence. The kind that told him everything before she said a word. "That woman," his mother said finally, "has no place in your life. She has a daughter. My daughter." His voice cracked. 4 years old. "She has my eyes, mother. Don't tell me that's a coincidence. You have no proof that child is—" "I don't need proof. I need the truth. You knew, didn't you? You knew when you called her into that office 5 years ago. You knew she was pregnant and you let me believe she betrayed me anyway." His mother's voice dropped to the register he'd learned to fear as a boy. "I protected this family. A foreign woman. A child the board would never accept. A marriage that was never going to survive the world you live in. You destroyed my marriage. I saved your future. You took my daughter from me for 5 years." Daniel's hand tightened on the phone. "And I am done thanking you for it." He hung up before she could respond. In 36 years, he had never once done that to his mother. He canceled every meeting for the rest of the day and drove himself home, something he hadn't done in years, just to feel some control before a conversation that scared him more than any boardroom ever had. At 6:15, he parked 2 blocks from the bakery and walked the rest of the way, coat collar up. The front of the bakery was dark, closed sign turned outward. He walked around to the back alley, to a single steel door with a bare bulb glowing above it, and knocked once. The door opened immediately, like she'd been standing on the other side waiting for it. Amara had changed out of her apron, hair down now, and for a moment neither of them said anything, just stood there. 5 years and one secret stretched out between them in a narrow doorway that smelled like flour and dish soap and something achingly familiar. "Come in," she said quietly, "before I change my mind." The back room doubled as storage and a playroom. Boxes of flour stacked against one wall, a child's table covered in crayons against the other. Daniel recognized the yellow dress from earlier hanging on a hook by the door. "She's with a neighbor tonight," Amara said, following his gaze. "Easier to talk without her here." She poured 2 cups of coffee without asking. "Still drink it black? Yes?" She handed him the cup, careful not to let their fingers touch. The smell hit him before the memory did. Vanilla, sugar, and underneath it, just her. "When did you find out?" he asked. "About Nari. 3 days after your mother called me into her office. 3 days after I signed those papers without contesting a single line. You didn't tell me. How could I?" Something cracked in her composure. "Your mother sat across from me with fabricated footage and told me exactly what she'd do if I stayed. She said if I was carrying your child, she'd make sure that child never had a future in this country. No school, no job, nothing but your family's shadow following her for life. The only way to protect a baby I didn't even know I was having yet was to disappear and let you believe there was no baby at all." Daniel sank into one of the small chairs, head in his hands. "I would have protected you. Both of you." "No, you wouldn't have." Amara's voice was quiet but certain. "You couldn't even protect me when it was just accusations. Your mother showed you fake footage and you believed her over me, after one conversation with her lawyer standing right there. You asked me to defend myself against something I never did, and when I couldn't prove a negative, you let them take me apart anyway." The truth sat on his chest like a weight he couldn't lift. "I was wrong," he admitted, "and I have regretted it every day since. I was pregnant and terrified," Amara continued, "and your mother had already shown me what she was capable of. So I left, and I built a life where my daughter would never know what it felt like to be unwanted by the people who were supposed to love her." 5 years. You raised her alone. Yes. Why come back now? "My mother's sick. She lives 20 minutes from here. Nari deserves to know at least one grandparent who actually wants her." Daniel absorbed it without flinching, because he'd earned every bit of it. "What have you told her about me?" "That her father lives far away. That adults make complicated choices sometimes." Amara sat across from him. "She's 4. She doesn't understand yet what it means not to have a father. But she asks. I want to know her. I want to be part of her life." "Why? Because your pride is wounded? Or because you suddenly remembered you're supposed to want a daughter now that there's one standing in front of you?" "Because she's mine," Daniel said. "Because I've already lost 5 years I'll never get back, and I refuse to lose any more." Quick one before we keep going. If you're still with me, drop a comment and let me know where in the world you're watching this from, and what time it is for you right now. I read every single one, and it's honestly one of my favorite parts of making these, seeing how far this story traveled to reach you. Okay, Back to Daniel and Amara. "And what happens," Amara said, "when your mother threatens her again? When the board makes you choose between your daughter and your company, and your fiancé's family pulls the merger, and your investors start asking questions you can't answer? What do you choose then? The same thing you chose 5 years ago." The question sat in the room like something physical. Every drawing taped to that wall was a birthday, a bedtime, a first day he hadn't been there for. "I'll choose her," he said, "whatever it costs me." "You don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying. I have a wedding in 3 weeks to a woman I don't love because it was good for business. None of it has ever meant anything without you in it, and I am done pretending otherwise." He pulled out his phone and typed 5 words to Soyeon before he could reconsider. "I can't marry you. I'm sorry." "There," he said quietly. "It's done." Amara stared at him like she didn't quite believe what she'd just watched. "You just ended your engagement by text message. She doesn't love me. She loves what the merger does for her family." His phone was already buzzing. "The only person whose heart I ever actually broke is standing in this room." Amara turned away, arms wrapped around herself. Daniel wanted to close the distance between them, but he knew he'd lost that right 5 years ago. "She likes strawberries," Amara said finally, voice thick. "She's allergic to shellfish. Found out the hard way at a restaurant in Atlanta when she was 2. She has nightmares about monsters under the bed sometimes, and singing is the only thing that helps. She's learning to read. Her favorite book has a dragon in it who's afraid of heights. She thinks that's the funniest thing in the world. She's shy with new people for about 10 minutes, and then she will not stop talking." Daniel felt something in his chest tighten and break open at once. "Thank you. I'm not saying yes to anything." Amara turned back, eyes dry now but hard. "I'll think about it. I'll talk to her first. If I decide to let you in, it happens slowly, on my terms, supervised, at first. And the moment you choose your company or your mother or anything else over that little girl, I take her and you never find us again. Understood? Understood. Go home. Deal with the mess you made. Figure out what your life looks like now that you've blown up the old one. When you're sure, completely sure, call me." She pulled a pen from her apron, scrawled a number on a receipt, and pressed it into his palm. The same receipt paper she'd used 5 years ago to leave him an address. Only this time it wasn't a goodbye. He closed his hand around it. "One more question. Her name. Nari. Why that?" Amara's smile was small and sad. "It means Lily, where your family's from. I wanted her to have something that connected her to a place I was running from. Guess that part didn't work out the way I planned." Daniel nodded, throat too tight to answer. He paused at the door. "I loved you, Amara. I never stopped." "I know." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "That's what made it so hard to leave." He stepped into the alley, into air that felt sharper than an hour ago. His phone hadn't stopped buzzing. His mother, Se-yeon, his assistant, board members he hadn't spoken to in months. He didn't get in the car. He called his lawyer first. "Sir," his lawyer answered on the second ring. "Pull every file from 5 years ago. The espionage case against Amara Whitfield. I want to know who fabricated the evidence and who signed off on burying it. Sir, if this traces back to, I don't care whose name comes up. Get me the truth by morning." He started walking, not toward his penthouse, not toward his mother's house, just through quiet streets full of people heading home from ordinary dinners. By the time he reached his car 2 blocks away, he had 41 missed calls. He answered the only one that mattered. Daniel. His mother's voice was terrifyingly calm. "We need to talk." "Yes. My office, 10 a.m. The board wants to discuss whether you're fit to keep running this company." "Let them discuss it. You ended your engagement by text message, humiliated the Park family, and for what? A woman who supposedly betrayed you, and a child who might not even be." "She's mine," Daniel said, voice perfectly still. "And Amara never betrayed anyone. You made sure I believed she had. Either you were wrong, or you were lying. Either way, it ends tomorrow." The silence lasted longer than he expected. "You actually care about this child. She's my daughter. Then you understand why I did what I did. The scandal. The board, the impossible position of raising a child this company would never accept." "You weren't protecting me," Daniel said. "You were protecting your idea of this family. I'm done paying for it." He ended the call, hands shaking with something that felt less like fear now and more like adrenaline. In one evening, he'd ended an engagement, declared war on his own mother, and put his position at the company on the table. And for the first time in 5 years, he felt lighter than he had in longer than he could remember. Real quick, if Daniel just calling out his own mother had you sitting up a little straighter, let me know in the comments. And if you want to see exactly what happens in that boardroom tomorrow morning, stick around. We're almost there. Daniel walked into the emergency board meeting an hour early. His mother was already there with 3 senior board members, expressions ranging from concerned to hostile. "We need to discuss your recent actions," Jin began. "No," Daniel said, setting a folder on the table. "You need to listen." His lawyer had delivered it at 6 that morning. Original security logs, internal emails, a recorded call detailing exactly how the footage against Amara had been fabricated 5 years ago, and on whose order. "Copies are already with 3 separate law firms," Daniel said. "If anything happens to me, Amara, or my daughter, every document becomes public. Every outlet, every regulator, every shareholder will know exactly what this company did to protect an image." The room went silent. Mr. Song finally cleared his throat. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Transparency. I'm acknowledging my daughter publicly. I'm clearing Amara's name with a formal statement, and anyone who threatens my family again faces actual legal consequences. The scandal will be enormous," another board member said. "Then it will be enormous." Daniel looked at his mother. "You taught me the company's name was the most important thing I'd ever protect. You were wrong. I finally have a real family, and I'm not building her life on a lie." His mother rose, chair scraping the floor. "If you do this, you are on your own." "I know," Daniel said. "I'm counting on it." She walked out without another word. Mr. Song exchanged a look with the others. "We'll need a statement. Control the narrative as much as we still can. I'll draft it myself. Today." At lunch, he called the number on the receipt. Amara answered on the 3rd ring. "It's me. I told the board everything. I'm going public with Nari's existence today." A long pause. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." "She has swimming lessons tomorrow," Amara said finally. 4 o'clock, Community Center on Oak Street. "If you want to meet her properly, be there at 3:30. We'll tell her together." "I'll be there, Daniel." A pause. "Don't make me regret this." He arrived the next afternoon 15 minutes early, dressed down in jeans and a sweater. No security, no driver, just an ordinary man waiting to meet his daughter. Amara was already there, Nari beside her in a pink swimsuit. When Nari spotted him, she pressed closer to her mother. "Mommy, it's the man from the bakery." "I know, baby." Amara crouched to her level. "Remember what we talked about? About your dad? This is him. He came to watch you swim today." "You're my daddy?" Nari's voice was tiny. Daniel crouched too, making himself smaller. "Yes, and I am so happy to finally meet you the right way." "Why didn't you come before?" she asked, with the bluntness only a 4-year-old has. He glanced at Amara, who gave a small nod. "Because I made a mistake. A really big one. I didn't know you existed, and the moment I found out, I came as fast as I could." "Are you gonna leave again?" "No," Daniel said, and meant it more than he'd meant almost anything in his life. "I'm going to be at every swim lesson, every birthday, every time you want to show me a drawing. If you'll let me." After a long moment, Nari took his hand. "Okay, but you have to sit in the family seats." "I'll sit wherever you want me to." They walked in together. Amara on one side, Daniel on the other. Nari in the middle, chattering about how she could swim 5 whole strokes now. He listened to every word like it was the only thing in the world worth hearing. When the lesson ended, Nari ran over dripping wet, holding up a gold star like a medal. "Can Daddy come get ice cream?" Amara looked at him, something soft passing between them. "Daddy can come get ice cream." In the small shop down the street, Daniel watched his daughter debate between chocolate and strawberry before settling on strawberry with rainbow sprinkles, listening to her talk about her best friend and a cat she wanted one day. Fully aware his phone was exploding behind him with calls from board members, reporters, and a mother who'd likely never speak to him the same way again. None of it mattered. Not right now. If you made it all the way to the end of this one, thank you. Genuinely. If Daniel and Amara's story hit you somewhere, hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't, because there's a lot more where this came from. And like I said earlier, drop a comment, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. I love seeing how far these stories travel. See you in the next one.